Hi, it's Kristen, and it's the Winter Mixtape Readathon. So I've done the Summer Mixtape Readathon and the Autumn Mixtape Readathon, and now it's the Winter one. So I'm going to run through the prompts. I've not got set books for the prompts quite yet. Thought through, I really need to have a look at my shelves, just generally. So I'm going to tell you what the prompts are, but not necessarily what I'm reading for the prompt until I'm actually reading the books. So I hope that's okay. So I've got the prompts here. This readathon is being run by Leanne, Jean and Amy. I will leave their links to YouTube channels, Instagrams below. Really like all those ladies. The whole concept of the readathon is it's based on mixtape songs that fit the theme of the season for, summer, autumn, winter, until they pick a new theme, I guess. So this winter one we have The New Year by Death Cab for Cutie. Pick a book that's a new to you author. We have 50 Words for Snow by Kate Bush. Pick a book that has setting as the plot, where the setting, the atmosphere is a really important aspect of the book. Coming Home by Leon Bridges. Revisit a book or author. I'm looking forward to this one because I've got back into rereading a bit more, so I'm looking forward to rereading something. Winter Sound by Of Monsters and Men, an indie self-pub or small press book. This is good. I've got a few on my shelves that I've received in book boxes that I just haven't got around to but need to get around to, so this will give me a push to do that. Then we have January by Paolo Dittini, which is the free choice, so just anything. And then they have their book prompts, but they also have their self-care prompts. The whole readathon's about reading but also looking after yourself, and they say the self-care can be taken as stuff to just sort of, I don't want to say frivolously, but generally take care of yourself in a more fun way, but also take care of yourself, actually seriously do things that will help you out, not just have a cup of tea and put a face mask on, but do that thing that you've been needing to do so it's done and then you can feel better. So these are the self-care prompts. Cold Water Blues by Muddy Waters. Do something for yourself, which again they said can be put on a face mask, have a cup of tea, watch a favourite episode of a show, but it could also be clean your clothes and dry them and iron them and get that done. So yeah, we'll see what I come up with, what I end up doing. It May Be Winter Outside by Love Unlimited. Make a reading resolution. I have a goals for the year video, so I already have reading resolutions, but I think I'm always thinking of reading goals or challenges or TBRs or videos and stuff, so we'll see what I come up with. White Winter Hymnal by Fleet Foxes. Have a cozy reading session. That will inevitably happen. I tend to read on my bed surrounded by cushions and pillows and blankets, and often with a cup of tea, sometimes with a bit of chocolate, so a cozy reading session is pretty much done and dusted straight away. And then we have Old Lang Syne, the Eddie Reader version specifically, they clarified in the announcement videos and the TBR videos, and that prompt is pay it forward. They said drop into someone's DMs and say something kind, which I think is nice. I always think it's nice when I get a comment on like my videos or my Instagram saying something nice. It makes me feel really good. So you could assume that me doing that to someone else would make them feel good. I think it's just nice to comment positively on social media, and there's always part of me that thinks like, oh, am I bugging that person? Will they think I'm weird if I comment? But like, I don't when people do it to me, so I'm probably just overthinking and psyching myself out. But yeah. So those are all the prompts, and throughout the week I will be vlogging and I'll be updating you with what I'm reading, and then at the end I'm sure I'll do a big wrap up of everything I read throughout the 2 weeks actually, and I will let you know what I end up reading and what prompts I end up fulfilling. So I'm currently on book 1 of the Winter Mixtape Readathon for me, and that is An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth by Chris Hadfield. This is non-fiction by Chris Hadfield, who was an astronaut. This was written when he was still an astronaut. I think this was released like 2013, so 10 years ago. He's retired now, but he was a big Canadian astronaut who got a really big social media presence going, and there's like videos of him playing music and stuff in space, but this is just his journey to becoming an astronaut, him telling stories of him on the International Space Station and on space missions and all that kind of stuff. This is intended as a birthday present for my friend, but I kind of wanted to read it beforehand because I think space is interesting and this just intrigued me. So yeah, I'm like a third, maybe a little over a third of the way through, but I do need to finish it today because I'm seeing my friend tomorrow and I don't know that I'll see him again before his birthday, so there's a lot of reading to do. I'm currently watching reading sprints. I didn't manage to catch the Winter Mixtape Readathon reading sprints as they were happening the other day, but I'm like watching them now and joining in retrospectively. So yes, I will update you when I finish that book, which hopefully will just be later today. Fingers crossed. Good morning. I stayed at my sibling's house last night. I went out and I did an escape room with my friends and my sister. We had some drinks, and so I stayed at my sister's house in my brother's room because he's out for the night. And his bed is so comfy. But I'm awake before my sister or her friend who also live here. So I'm gonna read. I'm gonna be reading A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Bernard. This one I've read before, so it's a reread. I remember really enjoying it, so I thought I'd give it another go. And I hope I still enjoy it. I read it quite quickly last time, so I'm hoping it'll be a quick read. So I'll do a quick update with where I'm at I currently have 2 hot water bottles because I'm having a terrible time of the month. So on Saturday morning, I finished reading An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth by Chris Hadfield. It was interesting. I think I gave it like 3 stars because while it was very interesting, there were parts of it that felt repetitive. He'd tell like a really cool, interesting story about training to go to space or being in space, and he'd be like, and the message I learned from this was to always pay attention to the small stuff. And I was like, cool. And then the next chapter he'd tell another interesting story, and then he'd be like, and the message I learned from that was to keep paying attention to the small stuff. And I was like, okay, Chris, we get it. And he wrote all about his training at the beginning, but then he went on 3 different space missions, I believe, throughout his time as an astronaut. And then with those 3 missions, he kind of uses them when he's talking about themes rather than talking about first mission, second mission, third mission. He's like talking about, the paying attention to the small stuff. And so he'll flip between those 3 times, and he'll go on to a different theme or topic, and he'll flip between those 3 times, and then sometimes back to his training. So the chronology of it didn't always make it the smoothest read, but I think he's a fairly decent writer. And anytime I was sort of thinking, is he going to talk about this? Like, is he going to talk about how it like affects his family because of the stories he was telling? I was like, this is wild, and how must that have affected his wife and then his kids and stuff? And then he did talk about that, so it was acknowledged, and I thought that was decent. He'd obviously thought about what exactly he was including in detail. And yeah, I thought it was good. If you're interested in like astronauts, cosmonauts, and interested in space, I think it's definitely worth reading. The sun has just come out and it's blinding me. Let's see if I can move slightly. There we go. Yeah, definitely worth the read. So I finished that on Saturday morning. Then I worked for most of Saturday during the day, and then in the evening I went and did an escape room with my friends, which was really fun, and then went back to my sister's house. My brother wasn't there, he was off doing a trek, climbing some mountains early Sunday morning, so he went elsewhere for the night, and so I could stay in his room, and he just got new Egyptian cotton sheets. His bed was so comfy. That's what you saw clip of before. I started reading A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Bernard, which I've read before. It's a reread for me. I read it a few years ago now. I want to say like 2019, 2018 maybe. But it's a YA contemporary for older readers, about a girl called Steffi who is has selective mutism, and a new boy joins her school who is deaf, and so the teacher sort of pairs them up, introduces them, because Steffi knows some British Sign Language, and so the teacher just goes, well, you guys can communicate, and sort of forces them to interact, but actually they become friends, and it's just about them being friends and then getting into a relationship and how that affects them both. It is told from Steffi's point of view, and along with selective mutism, she has a lot of social anxiety and stuff as well. So yeah, it's just really about her as a person and how her life is affected by these things, and her family and her friends and her relationship and her growing as a person or accepting things about herself and stuff like that. I remember it being quite cute. I think I gave it 4 stars when I originally read it. I'm enjoying it so far. It's quite a quick read. I started reading it, on Sunday. Read about 42 pages from the morning and then the evening, and picked it back up again this morning, Monday, and I've already read quite a few pages. So we're gonna have some lunch, I think, catch up on some TV with my mum, and then probably go back upstairs and continue reading. That's my plan. I would like to finish that book and then maybe get another book read this week. That would be good. I will update you when I've read some more.
Hello, good morning. It is the morning of the final day of the readathon. I am on a little walk, got out the house, because other than Friday, I briefly went to work. I have not left my house for an entire week. I have not been well. I've had the most horrendous cold. I still don't feel 100%. I just felt really unwell. I'm looking down because I'm walking precariously over sticks and rocks and things. But I just thought I needed some fresh air, even if I don't stay out for long. But I wanted to do an update. Yeah, I've not felt well this week, so my reading's not been great. I wanted to finish A Quiet Kind of Thunder and then maybe read an entire other book, and I just haven't. I finished A Quiet Kind of Thunder, but I spent the week reading the first 2/3 of it and then finished the last third yesterday in its entirety. I've just not had the concentration. Had a very sinus headache. Blocked sinuses, very headachy, eyes hurt, so it was difficult to concentrate on reading. I've sort of just been mindlessly watching YouTube and catching up on some shows that my mum and I watch when she's been around. Didn't have a very productive readathon. I feel like the past few readathons and reading vlogs I've tried to do, I've been ill for them, which is really frustrating. But I did finish Quiet Kind of Thunder last night, and I enjoyed it. I've read it before. Last time I read it was about 5 or 6 years ago. Actually, I was looking back through my reading log to see when it was I actually last read it, and I think it was 2017 or something. So a long time ago. I think I gave it 4 stars when I originally read it. Now I would give it 3.5, I think. I do just think the older I get, the less I relate to teenage characters. That's an aspect of it, and when teenage characters do bold, daring, questionable things, when I was younger I used to be like, yeah, you be independent, you do that thing. Now I read it going, oh my gosh, tell your parents, please don't just do this, tell an adult. But I do think that Sarah Bernard is good in the text of conveying that. I think when her teenage characters do daring things. She often has the adults and like older adult siblings, if there are any, talk about responsibility, and never in a patronising way. They always say that like the thing that that person did, maybe they're proud of them or they can see why that the teenage character did it, but to like think about responsibility and that kind of thing, which I think is a well done message that she does. Steffi and Reese's romance I just think is really cute. And they do have their disagreements whilst being cute, but the whole point of the book is like about communication. I think that's a really good message to send to younger readers. You know, what a healthy relationship and healthy communication within a relationship is. So I give props for that. Oh, it's just, sorry, it's just nice being in fresh air. My goodness. I love coming down to this little area because it's really quite secluded, but there is like a river just there, and across the river is a park, so you do sometimes see people walking. So it's like secluded, but there are also people around, so I don't feel like worried at any point. But yeah, nice little wooded area, literally down the road from my house. I love walking here. It's nicer in the like spring and summer when it's dry, because then you can like sit on like logs and things and chat with friends when we come down here. But yeah, that was my little update. I would like to start another book before the end of the readathon, so start another book today, just so I can say I've read like 2 books and started another. That is my plan. I'm going to finish my walk, go home, have a shower, get cozy again, and I will update you later.
So for my last book of the readathon, I've decided to read Skin by E.M. Reapy. This is because it feels like a couple of prompts. I think I'll just go through tomorrow when I do my like whole readathon wrap up. I'll go through what book applied to each prompt and stuff then. But this, yeah, is applicable to a couple of prompts, so I thought I'll read that. This is about a young woman. I think she's young. It doesn't actually say her name. This woman who is really dissatisfied with life, and so she decides to go travelling, which I also thought was like potentially an interesting pick for me, because I recently booked a holiday for September, but it will be the first time I've really been travelling in a long time. First time abroad in 7 years, first time travelling by myself, and so I just thought this could be like interesting, although for her I don't think it goes necessarily well. It says she becomes really obsessed with how people perceive her and how she looks and her body, so I believe this deals with like compulsive eating, and so might be a bit of a more serious read, not like a light-hearted book about travelling, but a more intense personal story for this character. But I'm excited to get to this because it's one that I got in a book subscription box a couple of years ago. If you go back on my channel, you see like I've got lots of
unboxings for Books That Matter. This was one of the books in that year's worth of books. And I've not read it, and I've not read many books from that subscription box, so I'm happy to also be tackling my TBR in that way. So yeah, it's not too long. It's 300 and something pages, but the writing looks quite big, and I'm hoping it'll, even though it'll tackle tough issues, I'm hoping it'll read quite quickly. My hair is a mess. I apologise. I had a shower and sort of just let it dry naturally, and it's just gone a bit wild. But yes, so I'm going to start that this afternoon.
Hello, let's do a wrap up. A little bit of a different location. We have seen it before in other vlogs, but I don't know, I wanted to be stood up. So yes, let's do a wrap up. The ReadAthon ended a few days ago, but I haven't had time to film, so it's happening now. It makes no difference to you. So I'm gonna look at what prompts I actually hit and go through everything I read, which wasn't as much as I hoped. So I started off the ReadAthon by reading An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth by Chris Hadfield, which I enjoyed, and then gave to my friend as a birthday present for him because I thought he'd enjoy it. So that, I think, is going to be my free choice prompt, because it doesn't really fit the others. I mean, it does, but it was non-fiction, so I'm sort of like, don't know where to put it. So I'm putting it there. Free choice. Then I read A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Bernard, which was really cute. I really enjoyed it again because it was a reread, so that fits the prompt of revisiting a book or an author. I read this, and then I read a couple of other Sarah Bernards in the past few years, and now I've read this again. Yeah, really fun, cute, but also tackles serious issues like disabilities and anxiety and death of family members and grief and stuff like that. Yeah, all YA contemporary there. And then on the final day, I started Skin by E.M. Reapy. This one I only got about 47 pages into. Yeah, I read the first chapter. The chapters are quite long. I don't know if they're technically chapters or parts, but I read the first section of this anyway. It's about a woman who goes travelling by herself, but also has like a lot of anxiety, and every time she gets anxious she just eats a lot. She binge eats, and so doesn't have a very healthy relationship with food. So it is a bit of a difficult read. I would be wary going into it if you personally know that you have had issues with binge eating or eating disorders, or it's just very uncomfortable or triggering for you to read about people talking about food a lot and reading about characters consuming a lot of food. I would be very wary going into this. I've read a bit more since the end of the ReadAthon, but not a lot. I'm finding it like easy to read in terms of the way it's written, not in terms of content. But I'm also finding it quite slow, or just like, it's easy to read but hard to get through, if that makes sense. I feel like it doesn't, but that's how I feel about it. And this fits the prompt of a new to me author, because I've never read by E.M. Reapy before, and also the indie self-pub small press, because yeah, this is Head of Zeus, which I believe is like an indie small publisher. Yes, so those are the books I read. I feel like I'm in my mind like that wasn't a successful readathon, but I read 2 books and started another, which is technically like a book a week, which for me is a perfectly fine rate to read books at, because I can sometimes go 2-3 weeks reading just one book. So to read 2 and start another in 2 weeks is actually not bad. I don't know why I'm getting so started. I think it's because the first mixtape readathon I did in the summer, I read 3 books and started another one, and didn't actually start joining in with that readathon until like half a week into it. So in a week and a half I read 3 books and started another one. So I need to chill out my standards for myself. And then the self-care prompts, it was do something for you, whatever that means. I tidied my room a bit, that made me feel a bit better. I bought myself this really comfortable tracksuit, which I wanted some nice loungewear, so that was something for me. Cozy reading session, yeah, I read a lot while in bed with cups of tea. I feel like I fulfilled that. Make a reading resolution. Yeah, I made a reading goals video for the channel, so I made some reading resolutions, and then also within this video I feel like I made the resolution to read more books that I got in my Books That Matter subscription box like 2 years ago. I made the resolution to actually get to some of them. So yeah, I made a reading resolution. Pay it forward was go into someone's DMs and say something nice. I did do that. I messaged a couple of people on Instagram from like their stories, things they posted, bookish or not bookish, just reacting to things, giving little compliments when I like someone's photos and stuff like that, which is easy to do and I feel like I should do it more. Yeah, the only thing I didn't do was the setting as plot prompt, which actually, if I think about it, I could apply what was the name of the book? An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth to that. I know that was non-fiction, so it's not really like plot, but the whole book is about Chris Hadfield's life and his journey from being a small boy and loving the idea of being an astronaut to being an astronaut who goes into space because he always wanted to be an astronaut, go to space. And he did that. So I guess you could say the setting as plot is, you know, space. Without space, without him wanting to go to space, there would be no plot to his life in terms of that. If he was an astronaut, I'm sure he'd be doing something else very successful. But in terms of the book and the purpose of the book, it's talking about being an astronaut and going to space. So without space and the space stations, there's no plot. Can I say that? In which case, I think I completed everything. If we're letting me have that lenient last prompt. But yeah. So actually, in terms of prompts, a very successful readathon. And I read 2 books and started another, which is fine for a 2-week readathon. I need to chill out. I also had other stuff going on this week. Well, these 2 weeks. I was very busy. And then, yeah, I was kind of ill. So there we go. That is what an informal, terrible wrap up. But yes, thank you for watching. Did you take part in this readathon? If you did, let me know how you did down below. We've had a summer mixtape readathon, an autumn mixtape readathon, and a winter mixtape readathon. I think I saw them say, like, oh, we'll have to think of a new theme. But I'm like, what about spring, guys? You can't just skip the spring season if you're doing all the other seasons. So I hope they do a spring one. And if they don't do spring, I do hope they continue the readathons in general, picking other themes. But do spring. Do a spring one. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye.